we helped that this get married. I recorded this last night, this story time, and I don't think it was good, and I don't think it was enough. Many of you know, if you follow me on this channel, I'm very spiritual. You know, I practice witchcraft, and something I try to do is on every full moon, you know, that's when you're supposed to release things that are no longer good for you in here anymore. And I tried to do that on this whole situation. I thought, you know, I recorded it, it's physically out of me, and I'm going to now release it and release that energy and everything. You know, what I'm now carrying on my shoulders from the whole situation. And yeah, so you write everything down on a piece of paper and you burn that piece of paper, and my paper would not burn. And that's just telling me that it's not done. You know what I mean? I'm not ready. I'm not done. I'm not ready to let it go. And, you know, rethinking about that video, rewatching that video, I'm not angry in that video. I'm incredibly sad, and I don't like that. I feel like I'm a victim in that video, which we are victims of this whole situation, but I'm not gonna let this guy take anything from me or us anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna be like, we were a victim, but I'm not gonna continue to be a victim. So my goal was today was to just film a short little intro to that video today, and basically apologize for not being over the top or entertaining, and for my tone and my mood during the video. But I just, fuck it. You know what I mean? Fuck that. I'm not gonna hold back. So this is the story of us living above a narcissist or a sociopath, or both, because, you know, who knows. We're not really sure if he was fully aware of his actions and aware of what he was doing and just had no remorse for it, or if he was just, we don't know. So anyway, this is the story time of the man who tried to ruin both of our lives and who has been stealing from us for over the past year. So we moved into this apartment starting July 2017. I think we started basically at the end of June, the very last week of June, and July 1st, 2017 was our lease start date. That was, we signed it back in April, so we walked through the place and everything like that. I fell absolutely in love with the place from just the pictures of seeing it online, and then when we walked through it, I was like, oh my goodness, I love this place. So the landlord's wife was there during our walkthrough in April, and she was awesome, and she really liked us, and she could see how much I really liked the apartment. So they decided to hold the apartment for us, because our lease that we were currently in did not expire until June 2017. So we did think that we were gonna lose it, but you know, it turns out that they liked us so much that they agreed to hold the place for us until our current lease ended, and then we could just move in on the start date in July. Yeah, they were adamant that they wanted us as their next tenants. Or at least the landlord was. And that, I'm not gonna name any names, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna do anything like that that's gonna possibly lead anyone to find this guy, or that could possibly hurt us, because this guy is such a that I know if this video ever came out and his name was in it, like, he would absolutely sue for defamation, which is bullshit, but I know that's something that would occur just based on our experiences over the past, since 2017, I guess. So no names, which is a shame, because I want nothing more than to warn every single person not to rent from this person. This person is a thief, this person is a scumbag. It pains me so heavily that there is going to be another tenant in that apartment. It pains me so heavily that this person has a child, and I'm sure treats their child the same way that we were treated, since we were considered family. I can only imagine how he actually treats his actual family. Yeah, what was I talking about? So yeah, they wanted us as their next tenants. It was set in stone. They loved us. They could see just how much, at least the wife could. The wife, I guess, is the one that convinced the landlord that, you know, we were the perfect tenants. So, you know, this came up quite frequently though in our stay at this apartment. Like, the landlord would often tell us and kind of like brag how much of a favor that he did us, because there were, you know, there was one very aggressive prospective tenant that, you know, was offering him all these sorts of amounts, and he would say, no, you know, I already have perfect tenants, you know, they're moving in July, it's off the market, it's not for rent. And, you know, he even bragged that like the realtor that he was working with was like, you guys, you're such an idiot, what are you doing, this is so much money, what are you doing? And he just kept saying, you know, I already have tenants, and you know, it's not about the money. This would only come up when it was about the money. We were renting for $1,000, and this person that, as he said, you know, I'm not too sure anymore, was offering like way more higher amounts, like 1,200 or 1,500. And I really think this was just a tactic. I don't think this was real at all. I think it was a tactic to make us feel guilty, because he only ever brought it up when we brought to him our issues that had to do with money. And it was his excuse, his reasoning why he does not care about money, so he cannot be cheating us out of money. Like, he wanted to make us feel like he went through trenches to ensure that we got the place, that we were the perfect tenants, that people were throwing him offers like left and right, but you know, we were the one. We were the ones. Yeah, he kept like bringing up how much of a hit he took monetarily just to ensure that we got the apartment. He would mention often like how we are family and how he considered us family, and it was just guilt tripping at the end of the day to try to keep us in line and make us feel guilty for bringing things up. He wanted to make sure we knew how much of a favor that he was doing for us, which in the end he wasn't doing us any kind of favor. All we want is to live quiet, peaceful lives, and this guy did the exact opposite of what we want. You know what I mean? Like, this guy brought so much drama, so much stress, and he didn't do us any favors. Honestly, I wish if that imaginary tenant, prospective tenant exists, I wish he would have just gone with them. So the first year, from the move-in date all the way up until signing of the secondary lease, which I think was like March or April 2018. So for that entire first year, everything was great. It was fantastic. Absolutely great. We had a cookout together with me and Evan and his family. We had a little barbecue outside for Memorial Day. We offered all the time, like when we would go grocery shopping, we offered all the time, hey, do you need anything? We're heading out to the supermarket. Do you need us to pick up any more salt? Like if it was in a wintry kind of month, we would offer to pick up stuff for them. We were always like trying to be active, good people. And part of that was, I think, because we could see some of the red flags with his personality, and we wanted to ensure that he knew, hey, yeah, we're trying to make this work. We're trying to, you know, be really cool people. But I'm just trying to say, like, we went out of our way to do things for these people. We even helped them get married. That is right. They asked us to be the witnesses to their marriage. We helped this get married. And this is something I severely question to this day now. Like, it makes me physically sick to my stomach to even think about that we were probably picked as tenants at the time because we were two good people. We had reputable backgrounds, like really good backgrounds. We're good, solid, calm, quiet people, but we look like really good witnesses. And it absolutely disgusts me to think about this specific thing to this day. I cannot get this part out of my head. You know, I took off 2 days of work, 2 physical days I took off of work to help them get married. So one of them was to go to the clerk's office to be the witness and say, yeah, they're not related. Yeah, there's no reasoning that I can think of that these two people should not be married. And then we both took off, me and Evan, for the day when we all went to the courthouse. And because it wasn't like a, you know, an actual wedding, it was like the legal part of being married, when you go in front of the judge and you sign a document, he signs a document and all that kind of stuff. And we were the witnesses for that, because you needed, I guess, 2 witnesses at least for that part. You know, and I have no idea what their background is, either of these two people. We were living in the apartment for at most only 3 months at this time, so we only knew them as acquaintances for 3 months now, but they were good people at the time. You know, they came off as good people, you know, quirky and having personality traits that I'm not very fond of, that, you know, bring back a lot of bad memories for me. But you know, at the same time, it's not my business what your personality is. We're just neighbors. At least that's what we wanted. We wanted to just be, you know, hey, how's the weather kind of neighbors. But, you know, we didn't know them personally. But at the same time, they didn't seem like awful people. It didn't seem like there was anything wrong. And they needed the help, you know what I mean? The story that the landlord spun to us was that all of their friends, all of their family were not nearby. They weren't anywhere near close. And that, it made sense because they're not natively from the US. So it made sense that, you know, all your friends and family might not be, you know, within a good drivable time. They probably would have to fly over, or if they're in a different part of the US, have to drive all the way here. It made sense at the time. And, you know, we did it. It really bothers me just how much we were scammed throughout this whole relationship, throughout this whole thing, to think, was this also a scam? So during that first year, I said before, like, there was minor red flags and like differences in kind of personality that were there, you know what I mean? There were minor red flags there during that first year, but we ignored them because they weren't, it wasn't like excessive. It wasn't like serious things. Like, we agreed with some of the things that he would say, or personal choices, the way he treated us as tenants. Like, for instance, like his personality was very like similar to like an older person who's like a hermit, who doesn't really come out of the house often, who lives at home, doesn't work, and like their lawn is their life. Curse those damn kids for walking on my precious lawn, and very like big Christian God ideals. So for instance, Halloween is an evil holiday. Halloween is evil. But you know, that was, like I said before, it's not something that's our business. It's not something that would ever like affect us. What was more of a red flag, and something that we probably should not have ignored, and something we will not ignore in the future, is more so with his ability to be a good landlord. He lacked any kind of motivation to do any kind of repairs on the apartment, to maintain anything. So when stuff broke, because our toilet broke within like the first 2 months of us living here, our toilet broke. The piece in the back snapped because the toilet's so old, and it started spewing water everywhere when we flushed it. And of course that was me, you know, so I got sprayed with water. I was freaking out, everything happened, but we texted him right away. He came up right away. He was very attentive. The next day he came over with a part and tried to do a self-repair. Couldn't repair it because the parts that they make now are too new for how old the toilet in the apartment was, and it was a very old toilet. So he told us like it's gonna need a professional, and that never happened. Like a talk later, he told us that he just forgot about it and he assumed that we would take care of it. Like, he asked during the time when it happened if we knew anybody, because, and let me know if this is correct, because I don't think it is. He told us that it would, the way like professional repair people work is you reach out to them and they put you like on a waiting list, and it could take months for them to come, especially if like it's in the winter. It could take months for them to just come and repair something. And I'm thinking now that's probably not the case. I think at most there might be a waiting list if it's like a really good repair person who gets a lot of business. But you know, I'm just sitting here and thinking about it because that's what my dad does. My dad is like a heating and air conditioning repair guy, and he gets calls all the time and he schedules people, but all those calls get done. Like sometimes he does multiple in a day and on weekends. You know what I mean? Like he's not scheduling people unless it's like a maintenance thing, like months ahead. So I think that was our first red flag, where, because this does come up later, where I think he wanted us to foot the bill. I think he wanted us to find the repair guy, pay the repair guy, and do our own repairs on the apartment. And that is a big one that we should have paid attention to, because that toilet never got repaired for our entire stay at that apartment. And we brought that up to him multiple times that it was still broken. There were things from our walkthrough in April that never got repaired, and in case like I didn't mention it, or I mentioned it too quickly, we walked through the apartment April 2017 and did not move in until July 2017. So there were things like the light in the bathroom that would require like extensive construction, and some of the windows were broken that didn't require extensive construction. But he had like 2 solid months at the least to fix these things. Probably a little more, because we walked through, I think, in early April to fix these things, and he didn't fix them. You know, it was an empty apartment, because he told us the light couldn't be repaired because we would lose the bathroom access. But you had 2 fucking months to repair them before we even moved in. I would say the second red flag that came up and we kind of didn't pay any mind to, that we should have, was when because the apartment had central air, so when the AC unit backed up and clogged and flooded his whole basement, he put the blame on us for that. And this happened within, again, 2 to 3 months of us living there. He told us that it happened because the filter was so dirty. And we had no idea what he was talking about, because this is the first that we're hearing about this. And it was the first time during this time that he told us we are responsible to be purchasing and replacing the filters that go into our AC unit. And he scolded us for letting it get so bad. But what I don't understand is, like, when he checks his, he would check ours, to the point where he would turn off our AC if it looked too dirty, and tell us until we replace it, we could not turn our AC back on. Replacing the filters for the furnace is something that was in our lease, but we were specifically told that the lease that we were signing was a boilerplate lease, like a generic. It included things like we would have to maintain and mow the lawn, trim the shrubbery, stuff like that just didn't make sense, because we don't have access to that. That was the landlord, because it was we were on the top floor of the house. It was a house, and the landlord lived on the first floor. So he still lived on the property. It was his yard, it was his lawn. The furnace is in his basement. We didn't have access and use to the lawn and stuff like that. So, you know, we were told by the realtor, we were told by his wife during the walkthrough, don't worry about all that kind of stuff. You don't have to do that kind of stuff. And I think that was another red flag we should have paid attention to, but we did choose to ignore it because we were paying $1,000 a month for this place. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. It was in a nice neighborhood full of like older people. It was very quiet. It was nice. And it wasn't such a big deal at first to change these filters. It sucked that we would have to like go through the landlord to do it. Like we didn't have access to his home to get into his basement to change our filters. You know what I mean? Like we would have to call them, are you home? Can you let us in? We bought new filters, kind of deal. So it was awkward and weird, and you know, we're entering his house to replace filters for our unit. It was weird. So it sucked to live above him, but nothing was like annoying or enough for us to pack our bags and run. at least yet. It wasn't until we signed the secondary lease in, it was either March or April 2018, that everything just took a turn. So the true landlord then slowly started to come out of hiding, and this facade that we had gotten to know over the past month or past year had slowly started to just die. So he offered not to raise our rent if we locked in to a 2-year lease. So we would remain at the $1,000 a month for the next 2 years. And, you know, nothing else was included in this lease. It was the same exact lease that we signed the first time. And, you know, the first year was pretty easy. It was an okay experience. There wasn't anything bad that was like, ooh. So we were okay with it. You know what I mean? Like, you're locking us into a pretty good deal for the next 2 years. You know, that'll help us save money. Because if you're not from here, apartments and renting in general in good areas of New Jersey is very expensive. It is incredibly expensive. Like, 1 bedrooms go for like like $1,200 all the way up to like $1,500 depending on the area, which is absolutely ridiculous. It feels like city living almost, because I know in cities it is very expensive for just like a 1-bedroom apartment. Around the signing of the new lease, he brought it to Evan's attention, because around this time he stopped approaching me with things. He stopped communicating like altogether with me. There were no more calls, no more texts, no more like calls or texts about issues or concerns or events or anything. The communication just stopped with me and only proceeded with Evan from the signing of the new lease onward. But after signing this new lease, within the same month, he approached Evan and told Evan that that we were responsible to be paying a water heater bill. The way Evan told it to me is he approached him in a way where he had been covering this bill, our portion of this bill. He had been covering it up until now, but now he wanted us to start paying for it. He brought it to him in a way that almost as if it was a piece of the water bill, which kind of, you know, and that made sense. This wasn't something that was added into the new lease. This wasn't something that was talked about during the signing of the new lease. This was something where Evan came home and, you know, this guy's weird and he watches for us to come home, and when the landlord sees one of us come home, although now it was Evan, whenever Evan would come home, he would open the door as soon as Evan was entering the entrance to our apartment. So it was just a random, he stopped him on his way into our apartment to let him know, you need to start paying the water heater bill. Evan was like, okay, you know what, that makes sense. We're using hot water. Makes sense? Yeah, we owe that. And so the water heater bill is the fucking catalyst that causes everything to blow up later. But for the time being, it was fine. I didn't see these payments until much later, but the first time he charged Evan for a water heater bill, he charged him $160. That really bothers me. During this, from when I like added up everything, when I started looking at everything, the amounts would fluctuate all over the place. He would charge him anywhere from that 160, would charge him 70, would charge him 100. And when I started to become aware of like the water heater bill and us being charged, it was okay, because it was like he was only charging around $40 a month for it at the time. We will come back to this water heater bill fiasco later, because that is the meat and potatoes of this whole story. But just for context, the water heater situation started in either March or April 2018. It was literally within weeks, within the next couple of weeks of signing that 2-year lease. One of the first things that, outside of the water heater bill, that started to happen was the change in the frequency of us needing to replace the air conditioning, the central air filters, the AC filters. The filters themselves have like stuff on them. Like, they tell you how good they last for. And for an average family with no pets, the filter is supposed to be good for 90 days. So it's supposed to be good for 3 months. So we followed that guideline because we're just 2 people in a 2-bedroom apartment with no pets allowed. And we are rarely home. We're just 2 people who are home for like half a day before they go to full-time jobs, and so often not home on the weekends. I mentioned this before, like we would come home and we would get texts from him stating that he turned off our AC because the filter was so dirty and the filter needed to be changed, and he wouldn't be turning on the AC until we changed the water filter, not the water filter, the AC filter. So he shut off our air conditioning and our use to the air conditioning until we replace the filters. And sometimes this would be in the middle of use. This frequency became more and more and more and more, to the point where we were changing that air conditioning filter every 1 to 2 weeks. So the filters themselves say they are good, like they're good for like 90 days, but we went from changing it every 90 days to every month, to every couple weeks, to every 2 weeks. And then at the end it started to get down to, oh, your filter's really dirty, you better change it, every week of us using it. Like, I'm not super familiar with this stuff, Evan's not super familiar with this stuff, but I really think there was something wrong with this AC unit. It comes up later again, and like that kind of further pushes my belief that there was something wrong with this filter, with the unit. Because it barely fucking did its job. First of all, it was costing us like $200 a month to run the central air during the summer, and it struggled to get the apartment down to anywhere near 70. Like, it struggled to get it down, even on days where it wasn't even super hot out. Struggled to get it to a comfortable temperature inside, and it would take hours to do this. The next thing that kind of pushed us in the direction of looking more into what's going on, like what is this, was in August 2018, at the start of us using the air conditioning again. The landlord told us, per the lease, we were responsible to repair and maintain the HVAC unit providing our AC. And maintain means having a maintenance program with a professional who repairs and maintains, you know, HVAC units, like my dad. He just randomly out of the blue told Evan this is something he's responsible for during like a routine changing of the filter. And Evan approached me with this, and I said, absolutely fucking not. No. he cannot just keep randomly popping up things at us that we are suddenly responsible for. This is the 3rd time this has happened. First with those filters, second with the water heater bill, and now he's telling us all of a sudden we're responsible to maintain and repair the central air unit? No. So that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So like that's not how this whole situation works. Like, I'm not responsible to repair and maintain my fridge if the fridge just suddenly goes. Like, for example, we're in the new place right now. We're in a new place. We're not currently living on a, you know, above that monster anymore. Our fridge during the first weekend of being here started leaking, just out of nowhere, leaking. We let them know, and within days they replaced our fridge because it was broken. So by his logic, we would have had to pay for a new fridge. That makes no sense. As a tenant, there are certain things that, yes, if you neglectfully do something, like if you physically, like, I don't even know, like if you leave the oven on and like the oven catches fire, or you leave something in the oven and it catches fire and it destroys the oven, you as the tenant are responsible to replace that oven. But if the oven is 15 years old and it just dies, or if it's like 18 years old and, you know, starts leaking, you know, wear and tear is not the responsibility of a tenant at all. That's just not how it works. He never approached us during the first year from 2017 to 2018 with this. He never approached us with this. He never told us this was something we were responsible for. It never came up, you know, and he didn't put it into the new lease either. Like, this was not something that was ever discussed. This was not something that ever came up until Evan was replacing the filter one day. And when we had a sit down talk, which he didn't want to do, by the way, once I became involved, he did not want to talk about anything. In fact, he told Evan, there's nothing to talk about. But there is, because there's a problem here, and we need to sit you down and discuss why you're wrong, you know. And during that sit down talk, I asked him that very question, like, where was this during the first year of our tenancy? And do you know what I was met with? Silence. Motherfucking golden silence. He had no response to it. He had no response to it. He was quiet. He's quiet as fuck. he had nothing to say to me when I asked him that question, because you know why? It's bullshit. It's absolutely fucking bullshit. My whole problem with this whole situation, you know, aside from being cheated and scammed from start to finish, was how shit like this would just pop up randomly. Just fucking pop up. It was never something that he told us at the start that we were responsible for. And, you know, it was only when he felt like bringing stuff up. Oh, it was the same with the amounts that he thought we owed. Like, everything was random. Everything was whatever he thought was fair or correct. Like, it had no basis. It had nothing backing it up. Nothing. So this he pointed to 2 sentences in our lease and combined them together to try to prove us wrong. And that was his argument. So the 2 sentences he pointed to were the ones that state that the tenants are responsible to maintain the apartment and tenants are responsible to pay for all repairs. So he chopped up those sentences that are in our lease and he went ahead and combined them together to do the mental gymnastics that we are responsible to maintain and pay for all repairs for the apartment that we are renting. But if he would just finish the entire sentence, it would say that the tenants are responsible to pay for all repairs that are made, that are required due to tenants' own neglect. So like my previous analogy, if we left the oven on with something in it and it caused a fire and the oven broke, we would be responsible for the oven. We are not responsible to fucking pay and maintain a wear and tear on an HVAC unit. So he then, because he doesn't like it when he does not like it when I open my mouth to him, because I spill so much logic into his brain and it hurts his tiny little pea-sized brain. He did not like it when I challenged him. So he tried to challenge me back and he gave me an analogy. He said, what if I used your car? What if I took your car to work one day? You lent me your car. I was being lent your car. And it broke. It broke on the way to work. It just stopped working. And then he changed it. Or say, you know, I'm using the air conditioning in your car on the way to work because I'm using your car. You lent me your car to go to work. And I'm using the air conditioning in the car. AC stops working. Broke during my use. And he was like, I would be responsible to fix your car because it broke while I was using it. And I told him, no, that's not how that works. I said, if you crashed my car or if you got violent in my car because you didn't like the way the AC unit was working, you couldn't get it to turn on, so you were banging on it, and that caused the AC to break, then fuck yeah, you would be responsible to pay for my car. So yes, if your neglect broke my car, if your purposeful neglect, then yes, you would be responsible to fix the car. But if the car just dies on you while you're driving to work and the AC just kind of is done on the way to work, I'm not gonna have you, the person using it, repair it because it died due to the age of the car or the parts in the car. Why the fuck would I have you fix my car, man? Why would I have you fix my car if it just stopped working? If anything, I would be embarrassed. I would say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. So we walk away from that talk with his wife saying, oh, we didn't know, we just thought it worked that way, you know, we read this and interpreted it differently than you guys are. And he walked away incredibly offended that we came to him with a binder full of facts instead of just taking him at face value and trusting like his word. Evan mentioned to me later, this was not something that I knew, he mentioned to me later that after that talk he made like an off remark to him stating like, you know, we're lucky he's such a good landlord because any other landlord would just evict tenants like us. And you know, he also commented during that talk that like if it breaks, it breaks. So that was super cool. I fully believe there's something wrong with that AC unit. I fully believe there's something wrong with it. With the way that it just struggled to work in general, how often he was telling us we needed to change the filters because how often the filters would just get dirty. Or I think they were two separate units. So like I think the furnace was two separate units. So I have no idea if like we were somehow getting their like dirt and stuff in ours. I have no idea. But I think getting so dirty, so filthy that it's scaring him it might back up again within a week of replacing it, that tells me that there's something wrong. And like and then to just combine the way it was working, the way we're replacing things with that talk, like I know there's something wrong with that unit. When he first approached Evan with that, I did research, so I looked up how much this stuff costs. And to have someone come out and just do like general maintenance, take a look at it, all that kind of stuff, can cost you anywhere from $150 all the way up to $500 depending on like your package. It could even be more than that. Like these were just estimates that I was finding. It's expensive to even have like maintenance done or to just have it looked at, you know what I mean? It's expensive. And if there's a problem, like it could go up into the thousands of dollars. And I believe, full-heartedly believe, that system was on its death's door. I think it needed to be replaced. That would have cost thousands of dollars. And that is something I physically brought up to him during that talk too. I said, we are not going to, like, if we have maintenance done and it turns out it needs to be replaced, why would we pay to replace something when we don't even own this property? Like, we don't own the apartment. If we were to pay to replace something, we would be taking it with us when we leave. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like tenants cannot be responsible for that kind of stuff. Like, there is no way in hell a tenant should be responsible to completely replace any kind of appliance in the apartment. No way. There is no way. I cannot believe that. What I think happened is after it flooded, the guy that came, because he did have someone come and look at it, and the story he spun us was, you know, it's the filters, it's just so dirty. But what I think really happened was the guy told him, yeah, it's on its last leg, man. It's like, this is why it's getting so dirty. This is what's going on. And, you know, he told him, you know, it's going to be this much to replace it. And it was probably a huge amount that he cannot afford or doesn't want to pay for because it's not going to benefit him in any single way. He waited until, he waited until we were using it again, because at the time when it flooded, it was at the end of summer. So now at the start of summer, he's telling us that we are responsible to get some kind of maintenance program going on the system. And like I know that he got an estimate, that he knows there's something wrong with it. Someone told him there's something wrong with it, and he was just trying to get us to foot the bill. And he was worried that, uh-oh, they're using it again because it's summer and it's going to flood again, and it's gonna ruin my basement. It's gonna ruin my rugs again. It's gonna do something. And if they don't fix it, this is gonna happen. So, water heater bill. This is the meat and potatoes of the story, because this is what caused things to really escalate. It's what caused us to realize, you know, this man has been scamming money out of us for a very long time now. The HVAC system, and that's the thing, because the water heater bill came before the HVAC system, so he had been successfully getting money from us all year. And that HVAC system issue that came up was another way for him to try to get something on our dime. You know, he saw that we fell for the water heater bill, and he thought, oh, if I point to these two things in there, if I have a good argument, I'll scare them into thinking that this is the way it works, and you know, I'll bully them and threaten them into thinking that they have to pay for this too. And what he doesn't realize is, if he didn't get so super greedy and just kept going along with this whole water heater bill and not trying to get more money out of us, or for us to foot bills for him or replace things for him, he would have gotten away with it. Like, we would not have gotten to the point of suspicion where we looked into anything else or thought anything else. And if it wasn't for that HVAC system issue, if it wasn't for him bringing that up, if it wasn't for that, he would have gotten away with it. So ever since he approached us with that, we did start thinking and looking into different things. You know, we started to be really suspicious of him. The landlord never showed me anything related to bills. So I've never seen a water bill. I've never seen the water heater bill. I've never seen the past bills. I haven't seen anything. He's never involved me in this process. The way it would work is he would text Evan stating, you know, water heater bill came in, this is how much you owe. And Evan would just write a check for either that amount, or if it was around the time that rent was due, he would just include it in the rent check. And that was that for a good long time. But after that HVAC system, I started complaining. You know, my mom called me randomly out of the blue, and because we don't talk super often, she asked me like, how are things in the new place? And I complained about, you know, all these things just keep popping up, all these things. You know, the biggest one was just recently with the air conditioning unit. He tried to get us to pay for the air conditioning unit, and, you know, we think that there's something wrong with it to begin with. We've been thinking there's something wrong with it, with the way that it works, and now all of a sudden he's approaching us and telling us that you know, we need to start maintaining it and we need to get it repaired. Like, that's just solidifying in my head that there is something wrong with it. And, you know, she asked me, what other things are, you know, just coming up? What other things are popping up and just spur of the moment, like, at you? Like, what is going on? And I told her about the filters. I told her how frequently we're changing them. And then I brought up, you know, he just randomly brought up onto us that we need to pay for a water heater bill. She said, a water heater bill? And I said, yeah, he's charging us every month for a water heater bill. And she told me, stop paying him any money, and ask to see a bill, because there is no such thing as a water heater bill. So I started doing research on this because I never thought anything about it. Because I don't know this stuff. I don't know. And for a really long time, we were just taking him at face value and trusting what he was saying. And I don't know this stuff. Now I do, but I don't know this stuff. So I was not thinking about that. Neither of us were. So I start doing research. I start talking to other people. He starts talking to other people. He talks to his dad. He talks to people he knows at work. I talk to people I know at work. And lo and behold, there is no such thing as a water heater company that bills for just the water heater. There's no such thing. So how it works is, what you would be paying into is either a gas or electric charge that basically heats the water heater. And, you know, what we would be paying into is either gas or electric. We should be paying a gas or electric bill. Yeah, it's never been presented to either of us in a way where we're paying a gas. It turns out to be gas. It's a gas water heater. We were never told that it's a gas water heater and that we're paying into a gas bill. The next move is logically to start asking for these bills. And at first, you know, he was compliant. So, but that's because he was snaking around giving us bills. When we asked to see the next bill, the landlord pulled out his phone, pulled up his email, and showed us an email from PSE&G that had the total amount of his current bill for the property. And it was like $200 something, $265 something. At that point, we confirmed it. Yep, we're paying into PSE&G, which is one of the primary electric and gas companies here in New Jersey. And at that point we were like, okay, so we need to start getting paper bills to see what are we paying into. It did become a bigger red flag because he got greedy again. And the way it, you know, we had just finished paying $30 for our last water heater bill. So the last thing we paid to him was $1,030 for the last month. So it comes around to December, January, and he is now telling us that we owe around $100 for this bill, for this water heater bill. So that's a $70 difference, and he's 100% just telling us, you know, you're paying for a water heater. From the start, it's always just been a water heater bill. So I was like, what the fuck? What is the $70 difference? Like, where did the $70 increase come from? Evan starts asking for paper bills. He wants the full bill. He wants to see everything. Like, he wants to see all the charges, the ups, the downs, everything for everything on that bill. We want it for our records going forward. And the landlord got so super defensive, like so super defensive. Like, no, what do you need that for? You won't learn anything from it. It's useless. You don't need it. Like, no, you don't need it. He kept pushing back, and eventually it was his wife just peeked over through the door and was like, what do you need? And Evan was like, I just want the full bill so I can see, you know, what we're paying into. And she was like, that's fine, I can get that for you, no problem. And that was the end of that conversation. But the next day passes and we don't like hear anything, like no text, no nothing. So Evan reaches out that day and is like, hey, he sends him a text, sends the landlord the text. Can you send the bill to my email? Here's my email address, like we discussed yesterday. And he forwarded over to Evan's email the sum total email that he had shown us previously, the $260 whatever sum total. And Evan's like, hey guy, what are you doing? We just had this whole discussion. Can you please give me the full bill? That's not what we discussed. That's not what we talked about. I want to see the full bill. And this is all in text, so we have everything documented. We have absolutely everything documented. It becomes a very back and forth situation. Like, he is pulling teeth to get this bill. The landlord sends page 1 of 4. It's so heavily redacted, like there are black bars across everything on the first page of this bill. So you can't like see any information, but you can see that there is both gas and electric on this bill. I lost my shit when he sent that to me and I saw that we're paying into a gas and electric bill for $260 something, and he wants us to cover 100 of that, with no indication as to, you know, what is what, how much are, you know, how much is, what are we paying? What on here is water heater? You know what I mean? No indication. So Evan reaches back out. Can I have the rest of the bill? And he sends page 4 of 4. Page 4 of 4. Also heavily redacted. And then Evan's like, okay, can you please send me page 1, 2, 3, and 4? And non-redacted versions, please. Because I can't see anything on these bills and you're not giving me the full bill. And the landlord proceeds to ghost him and not respond for the next couple of days. He doesn't respond to Evan until the bill is past due, which is convenient and disgusting. So he proceeds to wait until the bill is past due, and then he reaches out to Evan with a text and he's like, you know, we need to talk in person about the now past due bill. And Evan sends him a message because this is on Saturday. For like 3 days didn't say anything during the week. Waited until Saturday like afternoon to reach out and say we need to discuss this in person and it's now past due. So Evan just responds back, we're not available to talk today and I'm still waiting for all the copies of the bill. So we're not going to pay anything, we're not going to discuss anything until you give us the bill. And he proceeds to call right away. He calls him right away and he's like, why do you need this bill, man? Like, what? You're not going to get anything from it. Why do you want the bill so bad? And he just reiterates, we want it for our records. We want to see what we're paying for. And I started to get really loud at this point because he was really pissing me off, like really pissing me off. And I'm sure he could hear me through the wall, I'm sure he could hear me through the floor. From those 2 things alone, from those 2 pages alone, I could see he was charging us a portion of his electric, and I was so ready to rip him a new asshole. Evan was like, you know what, we're not available to talk today, but if you need money so bad, we can write you a check for what we think is fair, and then we can talk about it another time once you give us the full bill. And he, you know, the landlord was instantly like, oh no, don't worry about it, we'll talk. Because he was gonna write him like a $30 check, because that's what we paid for the last two months. January 15th, my birthday, we have a sit-down discussion. The first thing he does, actually, like, because this is important and it is something that will stick with me forever, and it is, I think, I keep saying the word catalyst, but it is definitely the catalyst for why I'm so uncomfortable around this man. I printed out those 2 pieces of paper that he gave us, page 1 of 4 and page 4 of 4, to bring him, and I also printed out a 4-page copy of our, or a 3-page copy because we don't have gas, of our own bill from PSE&G, because we're already paying our own electric through PSE&G. So I printed out all these things to bring to him because I wanted to lay them down on the table and show him, spot the difference. You know, look at this is redacted, this is where this information should be, so what is behind this black box? And the first thing that he does is he walks past Evan, walks right up to me, rips these papers out of my hand, and then proceeds to tear them up. He did not want us to have a copy of those bills. Did not want us to have a copy of his bill at all. He did proceed to pull out page 1, 2, 3, and 4 of his entirely redacted bill. He did proceed to provide us with well, he didn't provide it to us. He didn't want us to have it. In fact, he said, if you know, if you want a copy, I'm gonna have to charge you for it. What? So what we did, we snapped pictures of this bill to, like, so that we could have them, because this bill is the proof that we needed to show any kind of judge, any kind of person, that we have been scammed. And we are being scammed. And to this day, I'm still discovering stuff about this bill as I like look into it and like add up figures. And even right now, I just discovered something just sitting here thinking about it, which I will talk to you in a second. He produces the 4-page bill. Evan does what I was gonna do. He's like, do you see this? And you see that? You see this and you see that. You know, why is this like this? Why is your bill like this? And he said he didn't have like an answer. You know what I mean? He just kept saying, that's my bill. That's my bill. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing redacted. There's nothing blocked out. That's my bill. He just kept denying it. Just kept denying that it was redacted. Even when showing him our copy of the intact bill, there were words blocked out halfway through the word. So like he would word by word like show the landlord, it should say more than this. Do you see? Compare these 2 lines. Oh no, that's just my bill. I couldn't have done that. I don't know what that is. So his reasoning behind the $70 jump, because that was like my point, is what is going on? Like, are you having a problem? Why is our bill, when our lifestyle hasn't changed from the summer, spiking $70? And his excuse was, you know, I turned up the water heater. You know, it's cold now. I turned up the water heater. To which we did do our research afterwards. Turning up the water heater would only like increase a bill by at most like $5 to $10 a month. There's no explanation for a $70 gap, like a $70 increase. I think at most it was saying like it could increase between $30 to $60 annually. So there's no way raising the hot water would cause our portion of the bill to spike $70. Something else I brought up on there was, you know, you got electric charges on here. You have electric charges on here. We're paying gas, right? Yes, you're paying into gas for the water heater. This is the first time we ever had him admit to us or tell us that we were paying into gas. We'd been paying this for like a year now, and this was the first conversation we had with this man where he tells us it's a gas bill that we're paying into. His gas bill, like his gas for his portion of the home that, you know, he uses. We don't use gas heat to heat our home. Often we will have the windows open. We have like a heated blanket during the winter. That's just our lifestyle. We enjoy the cold. You know, that's why our AC unit is such a like big deal, because we like it cold and they like it hot. So they are always home. He doesn't work. He's disabled, so he doesn't work, and only recently has his wife started going back to work. So that was like 3 people in the home, because they also have a son, a very young son. So just picture that for a second, because that is a 3-person family who are always home, who are always using heat during winter to heat their home, who are, you know, always cooking, cleaning, taking a shower, because they're always home. And compare that to 2 people who work full-time, who don't take showers every day. You know what I mean? Like I don't shower every day. Eat out most of the time. Like we order a lot of takeout, and it was gas cooking, so we're rarely home. Like that's the other thing. Like we are 2 people who work full-time, and he often works overtime, so he's often not home more than me. Every weekend we're like always doing something, so like we'll often go places, we travel, we go on vacation. Like we are home at like most maybe half of the day. It just doesn't make sense. There's no way. And now I want to bring numbers into this, because he, by his words, said we are not paying into that electric charge. He takes care of that. All we would be paying into is the gas. And this is something I wish I had noticed at the time of this conversation, because I think that would have shut him down. Although I doubt it, because he's all over the place. So he'll come up with another excuse as to why it's this. To break down this bill. So the total cost of this bill was $261.43. If you start breaking down this total amount into gas and electric, the total amount of gas usage came out to $48.55. So he's saying we don't pay into that at all. The total amount of gas used on this bill came out to $170.20. What we later discovered from doing the math is there's an unaccounted for $42.68 on this bill. So behind some of that redacted stuff, there has to be like a late charge or something, an unpaid rolled over amount, because if you add up $48.55 and $170.20, the electric and the gas, it comes up to $218.75, which does not equal the total amount on that bill, which was $261.43. We did not realize that until later. But if we go by his logic, because that's something I wanna go ahead and do, and I wish I wasn't, you know, we didn't analyze the bill until, we didn't have the full bill to analyze until after this talk, and only because we were smart enough to take pictures of it. That $170.20, he wanted us to pay $100. So I just got done describing both of our lifestyles, and by his logic, we owed more than him. He wanted us to pay $100 out of $170.20. Something doesn't make sense there. And the way he's always presented this bill to Evan in the past has been that sum total. So he's never like broken it down and said, yeah, the bill is $261, but you're only going to pay in the gas, which is $170, and this is how much of the gas that you owe based on, you know, blah blah blah. This man had no meters on the water or on the gas, but it was shared. So there is no way for him to determine rightfully who owes what. A big thing that he kept bringing up is we had a portable washer and dryer. The portable washer was the issue for him. We've had that portable washer for like almost the entire time we've been staying there. It wasn't until August 2018 that he started having a problem with it. It was actually his wife during our first initial walkthrough who said, yeah, you know, in that kitchen, there's like a section in the kitchen area where she was like, this would be a perfect place for a washer and dryer. So she's honestly the one who gave me the idea to get that, and it just blows me away because there was no problem with it until it came up in August 2018, and it came up again during this talk where he, you know, he brought it up in a way where it was like, you know, I trust what you're saying right now, that that washer is not able to use hot water. I trust you. And just like I trust you, you guys should trust me when I say that you owe this much. And we were like, no, we don't want this. If you want, I can go upstairs, I can grab the manual, I can flip right to the page under usage and maintenance, under the water section. To avoid the possibility of water damage to the unit, operate with cold water only. Go ahead and flip right to the page for you, man. We can run upstairs, we can go grab it. And he was like, no, I trust you guys, I trust you guys. Yet clearly he doesn't, because it just kept coming up. And eventually when we ended up in court, that was one of his biggest concerns. So clearly, you know what I mean? Like, you want us to trust you, but you don't trust us. And we're more willing to go ahead and give you paper evidence than you're willing to give us paper evidence. What came about that conversation was, you know, what is the problem? What is the real problem here? Is it the amount that I'm charging you? Is it too much? Do you need me to like give you a set amount that you pay? Because is money the problem? Is it just too much? And the problem was never the money. The problem was this. The problem was we were being scammed, and we felt something was off, and we just couldn't put a finger on it. And he did a million different things during this talk to throw us off of the problem. He brought out all these different kinds of bills for different parts and pieces of the house, which just didn't make sense and didn't matter now that we look back on it. Absolutely had nothing to do with anything else. So it didn't make sense. And it was just a tactic to kind of throw us off and confuse us, which worked. So we left that conversation feeling very uneasy, and I mean, he gaslit us. That whole conversation, he gaslit us. He's been gaslighting us for a very long time, and that conversation was no different. So I walked away from that conversation kind of thinking, are we wrong? Like, did we make a mistake? During that conversation, we told him, like, you know, it's not about the money. It's just, we don't think that we owe this much. That this is too much from raising the hot water. This feels like it's too much. It doesn't make sense to us, and we don't have any kind of physical proof to show us why it spiked outside of your word, and I don't like that. So he was like, I'll tell you what, so that we don't have to talk, we don't have to do this anymore, we don't have to talk about it anymore, we don't have to meet like this every month, I'll just charge you $40 from here on out. But for this bill, pay $70. And this is what I was saying earlier, that I just realized what was going on, because I couldn't figure that out when he brought that up. Why would this bill be $70? Why you pay $70 for this bill, and then from every bill onward you pay $40? At the time that seemed like, okay, that's a good deal, because that's you know, we're paying $40, that makes sense. What he failed to tell us, and what I'm just now realizing, is it was $70 because he was tacking on a $30 late fee charge, because that's something he does later on, is he determines, you know, anything that's late has a $30 late fee charge on it. He didn't tell us that though. He didn't say, okay, from here on out you pay $40, but for this bill you have to pay $70 because the bill is late. And he didn't do that because he did that on purpose. He let the bill get late. You know what I mean? Like, we were adamant. We were on top of him, reaching out, making sure that he gave that bill to us. And he was the one that started ghosting. Like, he stopped responding, he stopped answering, and he waited until the bill was late before he reached back out to us. Once I went upstairs, once the conversation was over and we went upstairs and I started to actually look at the copies of this bill and start doing math and start like adding stuff up, really looking into it. We looked into how much it costs for a water heater, like raising the water heater during the winter, and we had enough, because I found this unaccounted for $46 on the bill that was behind redacted pieces of information. I found that, you know, if we're doing what he's saying we're doing, then we're paying more into his gas usage when he's using gas to heat his home. We're paying $100 into $170. Like, that doesn't make sense. And then upon seeing that there's no way our bill would spike $70 from 30 to 100 from just raising the hot water heater, we had enough. That was enough. We started looking for a lawyer. We found a lawyer in February. He advised us stop paying for the bills because something's not right. Something's not something's not right. You're definitely getting scammed. Stop paying for the bills. I'm gonna send him official notice through the mail. We're gonna send him a certified notice that the amounts that you pay needs to be renegotiated. We need to sit down and talk about it and look at it. And also, we need to renegotiate your lease, because something we brought up to him was how all these things just started coming up. The lawyer wanted to see a copy of our lease. So we gave him a copy of the lease and he looked at it and he determined, hey, your landlord had you sign the wrong kind of lease. The lease that you guys signed is as if you were renting the entire property. So that is why it says you have to maintain the shrubbery, mow the lawn, change the filters, maintain the furnace, all this kind of stuff, because it's as if you were renting both the top floor and the bottom floor, the whole property. Because if you were renting the whole house, you would have to mow the lawn, you would have to maintain this stuff, you would have to do this work. But it doesn't make sense because you don't have access to that kind of stuff. You don't have the ability to use the lawn. He, unfortunately, gave you the wrong kind of lease. Unfortunately, though, because you guys signed it, it is a legal binding contract. He can enact those, like he can tell you to do those things. And that was our fear from this point on, because we were worried that he was going to start asking us to do stuff like mow the lawn or trim the shrubbery or do all these other things that are in there, because we were afraid he was going to retaliate from this, and we wanted to make sure that he could not retaliate in any kind of way and make us do any of this random bullshit that it was in this lease that he was already interpreting the way he wanted to. So the lawyer sent him a letter in March 2019, basically said, hey, let's sit down, let's renegotiate this lease, because you had them sign a lease that was intended for the renting of the entire property. Also, let's discuss these bills and let's come to an agreement on these bills. And a month goes by, we don't hear anything from him. He doesn't mention anything to us. The lawyer doesn't get anything back in the mail, because the way certified stuff works is you get like a receipt in the mail when they sign for stuff. The lawyer was like, all right, so I haven't gotten anything. What I recommend you do right now is to print out that letter. I'm gonna send you a copy, the copy I sent him, print it out and give it to him. So we did that. We left it on the table for him and we let him know via text messaging, because we wanted to document everything. Our lawyer attempted to mail you a letter. He didn't receive anything back from it, so we're not sure if you got it. And so he recommended that we give you the letter. So we left it on the mail table downstairs for you. And the landlord rejected this letter. He said, I do not accept the letter. I'm not taking the letter. And he said, have the lawyer contact me directly. Immediately said, that's no problem, fine, sure. I asked the lawyer how to proceed. Lawyer said, give him, let me know what his email address is. I need a valid email and I will reach out to him directly. So we have this email from January from you. Is this still a valid email? The lawyer wants to contact you directly, and no response. Absolutely no response. So I told the lawyer, I sent an email to the lawyer. He's not responding. This is the last known email we have from him from back in January. I guess tried to reach out to him via that, because he's now not being compliant. Lawyer attempted to reach him via that email, never got a response. Never got a response from him. On April 22nd, we got a court summons for eviction in the mail. So it was dated April 16th, which was the day after we tried to hand deliver the letter to him. So instead of taking that letter and reading it and seeing what it said inside, he would rather just go to the court, pay $50 and try to get us evicted. And it turns out later we learned he did sign for the letter. He signed for the letter. It just took longer than expected to have that receipt go by. So it's really insulting, because what occurred then, because he signed for it. He signed for it in March and April. One of those, you know, late March, early April, he signed for it when it came. He read it and he did nothing. He didn't approach us, he didn't text us, he didn't say anything to the lawyer, didn't reach out to the lawyer, he just ignored it. He just thought if he ignored it, it would just go away. Like, I'll just keep, you know, reminding them, you know, you owe this much now, you owe this much now, and just ignore the fact that we were trying to like fix a problem. He would rather file for eviction than work it out. He was probably super offended that we reached out to a lawyer for help. But you know, my thing was, and this is still my argument, is we're not super knowledgeable about this whole situation. We're not super knowledgeable about anything in this that's like going on. So of course we reached out to somebody who knows what they're talking about and doing. And you know, they're on our side. They can see that you're wrong, and you ignored that. You ignored that. This asshole, because from this point on, the lawyer said, cut contact. Don't contact him anymore, and we'll see him in court. I will be in court, I will represent you. But at this point, it became really, really difficult for me. And this is why I'm so angry, because I'm still dealing with this shit. I no longer wanted to leave the house for fear of running into him, and I no longer wanted to come home, because I've mentioned before in the past, this guy watches, like that's all he does is sit at home and watch through his window. He knows what time we get home, and that's conveniently the time he's outside, or the time his door is open. Like I did not want to risk having a conversation with him. It made me so uncomfortable. And that is like a recommendation here. Never live in the same place as your landlord. Like it is impossible. Because if anything happens, then you have to deal with that. You know what I mean? Like you live in the same building as this person. So you are sharing a residence with this person. It just became so uncomfortable, and I felt so off. I during high school, like I had very often like episodes of depersonalization. I have depression, I have anxiety. Like this caused my anxiety to spike, to absolutely spike to the worst it's ever been. I am still in like an episode of like depersonalization. Nothing feels real, and I hate it. Like in this new place, this is the start of the second week in this new place, and anytime I hear a noise outside, it brings me back to when like I would hear them open the door downstairs, and it's that same like uptight like jerk reaction feeling, and I fucking hate it. I think that's just someone vacuuming. But it like every time, that's where my mind instantly goes, is oh no, they're downstairs, and that's no way to fucking live, man. So I'm still working through my personal demons, but let me get back to the story. So in May, we showed up to the court. He's telling us, you know, in that summons, that he's telling the court that we owe $401.93. I don't know how. I don't know how, like doing the math, I don't know how he came to that amount. We met, and if you don't know how like landlord court works, because this was our first experience too, the way it works, you don't meet right away in front of the judge. It is a mass of people. It is like literally a church full of people that are there, and your first job for the first hour is to mediate. So you talk to the lawyer or your representation, or if you have none, you work it out with the landlord. You try to work it out. We tried to work it out, and we spoke to our lawyer. Our lawyer went over to the landlord, and our lawyer came back with a different amount. So he's now saying on the date of court that it's no longer the $401.93. It is now, we owe $486.93, which I don't know where this came from. And the reason I think I mentioned previously in this video that it's always like equal amounts, I don't know, I wrote that down, but I don't know if I actually said that. It's always been equal amounts. But ever since we got a lawyer, the amounts have been accurate that we owe, and the amounts have been not equal amounts. they've had change. They've been, usually it was like 30, 40, 70, 100, you know what I mean? Now it was 46, 86. This amount just spiked on the day of court. Now he wanted like 85 extra dollars from us out of nowhere with no explanation. He told the lawyer it was late fees, but if you do the math, like even before it didn't come to 401, it came up to $396. Like I lost my mind after the court date trying to figure out what his math was. I couldn't figure it out. The only thing I can think of is he was pre-charging us for things, but even then, like, the amounts don't add up. So I have no fucking clue what this amount was. What I am thankful for though is the lawyer was able to see how he just pops numbers out, and how it's almost like he can't remember what he said we owe, because, you know, it started at 486 and we tried to mediate and he wasn't having it. And when the lawyer went back to him the second time, suddenly the amount had changed to 426, right? Yeah, so it had randomly changed, almost as if, like, in conversation. It wasn't like he suddenly said, you know what, never mind, you know, I'll cut the amount that they owe. No, it was like as if the conversation never changed. Like 486 now in his mind was always 426. So I'm thankful that somebody else could see the way that he was working. He didn't like anything that we were presenting him, and I think that's because it was coming from us. The way this man worked was he was a control freak. It had to be his idea for us to go through with it. If it wasn't his idea, it wasn't gonna happen. And we went into this knowing this. No matter what we tried to mediate with, whatever we tried to offer or counter offer, it just wasn't gonna go. This man wanted to milk us for as much money as possible. Eventually he just told the lawyer, I'm done talking to you. I'm gonna talk to the judge and they can be kicked out today. So we talked to the judge. The first thing he asked the landlord is if we're paying our rent on time, which we are. We always pay ahead of time. We've never missed a payment on one of these things, on these bills, up until we noticed there was an issue with them. The judge asks our lawyer, like, okay, so what's the issue? And the issue, you know, he told him, is the amount that they think that they owe for these bills. And it's just, he's not charging them right. So eventually the judge does dismiss the case. He just dismisses the case, and he said, you know what, I know this lawyer. If you cannot work out this situation with this lawyer, then there's no hope for you. You can't work it out with anybody. You can't talk to anybody. So the judge really chewed him out because he didn't do it right. You can't just file for an eviction. You have to do like the due process. He needed to file a notice to quit, give us the time to give us official notice, confirmation, this is what you're doing wrong, fix it, or I'm terminating your lease. I think one of the other landlords told, when we were just talking, said that there's nothing that this judge hates more is when a landlord doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. So it felt good. It also felt so fucking good to like see him in this state, because he always like talks down to us. He treats us like garbage. He's so aggressive and passive aggressive at us. Like, he's just a nightmare to talk to when it's just us. But in front of this judge, he was such a coward. It was so good to see. Like, he was stuttering. He couldn't look like the judge in the eyes. He was hiding under a hat. Like, he had his tail between his legs, and it was so good to see. Like, it was such a good sight to see, because this asshole, this guy who's been treating us like shit for months now, for a year, quite honestly. But to just see him cower, like, it was good to see. Like, it felt so good to see. Case dismissed. It was a victory for us. We're not getting evicted. We don't have an eviction on our on our record, on our credit report or anything like that, which is great. But that is how he tried to ruin our lives, because I don't know if you're aware, evictions stay with you forever. It makes it impossible to rent. Like, that could have potentially made us homeless for a really long time until we were able to afford to buy a house. And I don't even know if that would have affected like buying a house, but that was a nightmare. I was so, like, I have binders and binders of stuff ready to go, to combat anything that he was gonna say. But I still had that doubt in my mind. I still had that worry in my mind that if the judge rules in his favor and we get evicted, then this asshole, first of all, will get more money from us than he's entitled to. Honestly, I think he needs to pay us money. He has scammed us out of so much money. And then we would have this really damning thing on our record. The next day after court, I don't know, he grew a set of balls again and decided to try to approach us while we were leaving the house to go somewhere. And instant attitude change. It was right back, you know, asshole. You know, he stopped us and he was like, why is there a letter on the table for me? There's a letter down there, why? And, you know, he's referring to the letter that we tried to give him a month ago from our lawyer that we're not going to touch because it's his mail and, you know, he can do whatever he wants with it. And I told him that, you know, I don't know why you're acting like we just put that letter last night down there for you. I don't know what this is or where this is coming from. That letter's been there for like 3 weeks now. It's your mail. It's been sitting there. Do with it whatever you want to do with it. We're not touching your mail. We're not going to touch it. I mean, it's a federal offense to touch mail. And I get that it's from us and we gave it to him. But this is one of the crummiest people in the world, and I would not put it past him for him to like complain if we were to take that piece of mail away from him. I would not put it past him to like report it and try to get us in trouble for touching his mail and fiddling with his mail. But he aggressively and yelling at us to get rid of it, to just get rid of it. You heard the judge, get rid of it. You know, there's no reason for you to be giving me any kind of sort of mail. You can't force anything on me. Get rid of it. And I said, no. If you want to get rid of it, you can throw it out. You can get rid of it. It's your mail. It's been sitting there. We're not touching your mail. If you know what, and you don't need to have any kind of conversation, any kind of communication with us directly. Speak to our lawyer. And I got in the car, Evan got in the car, and we just drove off. Aggressively yelling at us in public. And at one point he was like, you know, I didn't want to do this out here, you know, you're making a scene. No, you're making a scene. You're fucking making a scene. If you didn't want to do it out here, if you didn't want anybody to look and see and know, you wouldn't have approached us in public. You know, you could have texted, phone called, approached inside. You wanted to look like you had some kind of leverage, some kind of big balls. You wanted to bully us. So you did this. You did this. So a week later, we do get a notice to quit. Yay. The way that he wrote it too, it was you need to pay this amount and you need to get out. There is no renegotiating of the lease. I'm terminating your lease, which I think is illegal, but whatever. I don't think that's how those work. The amount raised again, $10. It was now $4.98. So during the whole court thing, he told our lawyer that we deserve to pay all this because he's giving us such a good rent deal. Okay, so what I did in response to this notice to quit is I typed up 3 different letters. I gave him the official repair list. We tried to give this to him on the date of court as well, but he denied it. He refused to take it. So we slipped it in with the other 2 notices, and one was about the security deposit and one was an acknowledgement that yes, we will adhere to the termination of the lease and we will be out by the 30th. But we learned a lot about security deposit law in New Jersey during this whole debacle. He never once gave us any kind of written notice of the security deposit is in this bank. He never gave us the annual notice that the security deposit is still in this bank and here's how much interest it's gained, and he's never paid us the interest. He broke the law because that's something you have to do. All 3 of those things are required by law, and all 3 of those things he did not do. What I put at the end of that letter was, you know, since you have failed to complete these things during our lease, we will be applying $1,000 of our security deposit to this month's rent. And we got a notice back. We got a letter back 2 days later stating, you know, it's unlawful to not pay rent. But what I'm doing is very legal. He gave us a statement for the security deposit though. He printed out, I think, May's statement for the security deposit, but it doesn't tell you any information. Like, I can't see if it's been in there for the past whatever amount of years. I can't see, like, you know, how much interest. I can't see all that stuff. It just is 1,500 sitting in an account for May 2019. Like, that's not what I asked for. He didn't pay us the security deposit interest. And he said in that letter, you know, you'll get the security deposit upon our final walkthrough, and it, you know, if there's anything left. The letter also stated he put up the apartment back on the market. It's back up for rent, which I promptly checked, and I still checked now, and it's not on the market at all online. And he said that providing that repair list was an attempt to stop him from doing a final walkthrough upon us leaving the apartment, which it was not. It was repair list, including all of the times we've notified him for different things. I have text messages, I have calls, I have everything to back that up. But that it was a list of all the wear and tear, all the things wrong, all the things that were broken before we moved in. And, you know, I put in my letter, it's adamant that I give this to you now based on how you're acting, based on the current events. There needs to be official notice out there that I attempted to give you this repair list. And the repair list has all of the dates that we, you know, verbally or through text gave you notice of these issues. And that was that. The plan from here on out, we had already started looking for an apartment. We're in the apartment now, which is great. June 7th, we were able to start moving into the new place. There was only one final issue with this jerk, and it was that he was faking people who wanted to come walk through the apartment. So on the 5th, we were home. He wanted to do a showcase of the apartment to a prospective tenant from 5 p.m. onward. So we were home. He said it will take from 5 to 5:30, and we were like, that's fine, we'll be home, that's no problem. 5 comes around, nothing. 5:15, nothing. 5:20, nothing. 5:30, nothing. It wasn't until like a couple minutes after 5:30 that he's like, the appointment has been changed to Sunday at 11 a.m. Just that's it. And of course that's the weekend that we're moving. So we told him we're not available. You know, I was like, Evan, we're not available. We're not doing this because I don't need him to, this is harassment at this point. He waited until 5:30 to tell us that first of all, it's not happening. So, you know, I know you knew before that because, you know, I don't even think the apartment's on the market. We're not doing this. We're not going to keep doing like this harassment deal where it's like an imaginary person who wants to come walk through the apartment. We're not doing it. So Evan sent him a text message back saying we were able to accommodate you for today because we had nothing going on, but Sunday we are not available. We're going to be in and out of town all weekend, so we're not going to be here. You know, we're available anytime after Tuesday to help to do this. We're available to do this anytime after Tuesday. We recommend in the future to let us know or ask our availability before setting up an appointment. And he had a really shitty response back saying, you're not accommodating me. I own the property. It's not your property. If you're going to be out of town, then you need to leave me a key because I am going to be showing the apartment at that time. And the way that I understand it is like, as long as you're not being unreasonable, the tenant has the right to say no. But he was like, I only need to give you 24-hour notice. I don't need to even really tell you guys that I'm doing this. I own the property. But, you know, this is still our home. Like, you're being very harassing. You're being very unreasonable. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is still our place that we live. Like, I get you own the property, but you're renting. So we live here. This is our home. We still have the 30 days. You need to chill. The way I understand that it works is so long as you're not being unreasonable, which I don't think we were by saying, hey, this is our availability, please try to work with us. It was him in the first place that didn't want a key to our apartment. When we first moved in 2017, he said, you go buy new locks, change the locks, and I don't want a key. So, and I feel better for that because I don't trust him around our stuff. All of our stuff was in boxes. There was no way we were gonna leave this person who's been scamming and stealing from us for over a year a key to all of our stuff while we're not here. So we didn't respond to it. We didn't respond to that because that was a really shitty text message. And we didn't respond to it because we told him, hey, this is what this is, and we're not gonna be here. This is our availability. We recommend changing the appointment. Please try to work with us in the future. So Friday comes along and we start moving and we make a trip. We start moving boxes and we do a trip. We get unpacked. We go to Home Depot to pick up more boxes and he sends us a text. And now all of a sudden he's sending me notices as well, saying, you know, nope, I haven't heard from you guys. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hire a locksmith and we're gonna go ahead and change the locks. And when you guys come back next week, you guys can go ahead and pay me for the key. And that's illegal, and that's what Evan instantly said back to him. He said, you can't do that, that's illegal. You cannot change the locks on us while we're away, and that is illegal. You cannot do that. You cannot change the lock. We have that apartment for 30 days. We have been more than reasonable giving you our time. You know, if you want to be a piss baby and you don't want to work with us because you're an asshole, that's on you. We told him, you know, we're in the middle of moving. We're not giving you a key based on your based on past experiences with you. We're not giving you a key. We don't trust you around our stuff while it's in boxes while we're not here. We are ahead of schedule right now and it's looking good. So we should be all moved out by the end of Saturday, which would mean this will be no problem and you can just have the apartment. But if we're not done in time, we're not leaving you a key. We've already let you know our availability and you can just deal with it. And he said, you know, I would never stoop to your level. I would never steal from you. But he typed out good readings, but I assume he meant good riddance. So yeah, and he proceeded to be a hovering dick the entire time that we were moving out, watching through the window, you know, coming out to bother us, being an asshole. But we did it though. Saturday we worked nonstop, vacuumed the apartment, did minor cleaning, but based on how much he was just pushing us to get out and how much we were just done with dealing with him, it was an uncomfortable experience. He was harassing us. We were just done with it. We didn't want it anymore. So we didn't do a good thorough cleaning of the apartment. We didn't remove our hooks, even though there were already hooks and nails in the walls from when we moved in 2017. We didn't do a thorough cleaning because of how much he was just pushing at us. We did the best that we could, but we were done by 11. We took off our locks and we left his downstairs for him, and we have not been responding to him ever since. He sent a text the next day stating, you know, I see you guys abandoned the apartment, and you know, we were supposed to walk through it to complete a final walkthrough and just all this kind of stuff. But you know, we did our own walkthrough. We have dated video of us walking through the apartment, so if there's any other issues outside of what we recorded, clearly you did them after we left. We did video walkthrough, we took pictures, we did everything on ourselves, and you know, we don't expect to get that security deposit back anyway. You know, I'm surprised if it honestly is even there, to be quite honest with you, with how things have gone. So yeah, so we're in the new place. This is the start of the second week in the new place, and things are really good here. I feel good. I feel better. I'm still super stressed out. I feel like it was really bad. From this video, it might not seem like it's super bad, but me as a person and the way that I am and being put in that situation and living above that person, living in the same place as that person who would watch and wait and come out and peck at you, and you know what I mean, like being so close to that person was too much for me. And once things started escalating, it was just way too much for me, and I kind of broke as a person. And that's why I haven't been super active here on YouTube or social media in general. But yeah, so things are looking up. We're just gonna keep moving forward. I'm prepared if anything comes at us in the future with this psychopath. I'm prepared. But hopefully it doesn't, and hopefully we can just put it behind us and keep moving forward and learn from it. And I can tell you right now, like, I will never ignore another red flag in a situation like this. Like that, there are so many things where I would just be like, nope, it's not for us. This is, I have a bad gut feeling, not doing it. And it is a learning experience. You know what I mean? Like I think we needed to go through this to learn, you know, this is what you need to look out for in the future. And we will. And we will. All right, I am gonna go. I don't know if I'm gonna be back and active on this channel. I don't know just yet. I'm still recovering. I'm still trying to breathe and, you know, become a person again. So hopefully, because I love doing this, I love this, so hopefully. But alright guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support over these years. Thanks for sticking with me. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the future sometime, probably. Bye.